So welcome to another Good Dads podcast. I am here with Dr. Jennifer Baker and Good Dads, Great Communities.
Right.
And today we're going to be focused on getting started with 6 essential sectors.
Right.
And, oftentimes before we start talking about this, a lot of people are like, what is Good Dads? How can I help out? And this is just kind of a further explanation of that and breaking it down in 6 parts.
Right. I think a lot of people are now beginning to think, how do we get something like Good Dads in my community? And that's a very good question. How do you get started? We have learned over the last 10 years that there are 6 important sectors that you must get involved if you want your Good Dads effort to be sustainable. So, sometimes people think, well, maybe I could do a nice thing at my church, or couldn't we do that Good Dads Strong Schools program in our school, or maybe one of our local social service agencies could do something with dads. It really takes a broader effort than that if you want this to be sustainable and have something here 5 years from now. And we've learned that, with lots of experience over the years, now in 13, 14, 15 different communities.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So it's like, where do I get started? How do I know if my community needs this? Who do I contact?
Right.
How do I contact it?
Right,
So,
right.
I mean, these are just basic questions on it, which is kind of a long answer.
Right. Well, when we're contacted by someone in a community, and we get quite a few of those contacts now, we say, well, we would be happy to come in and do a community lunch. And I do that. I come in and I speak, and we provide lunch for people as long as you have representatives from these 6 sectors in the room. And those 6 sectors are you waiting? Do you want to know?
I can't wait. I didn't know. You want to do a commercial break? Or we don't have those right now. Okay.
All right. So the business and manufacturing community. All right. Many dads make up an important part of the workforce. Businesses do better if they have engaged employees. And of course, dads buy stuff. So we need the business community to be represented. And we ask at least 2 business owners or CEOs or somebody in management positions to be available from the business community. Then we want people from the faith community. This is not a faith-based program, but nothing we do is at odds with what goes on in a faith-based setting. And these are people who can be very passionate about serving fathers, and they are wonderful volunteers, and they often implement our programs in their setting, as well as are a source of volunteers for the community. Then we need people from city and local or city and county government. It's really
getting politics involved.
Yeah.
You want to get politics involved, right?
It's your county commissioners. I'm glad you're enjoying this. It's your county commissioners, it's your mayors, It's your representatives,
Sure.
But it's people locally who can put in a good word for you. And it's amazing how often these people can open the door for you.
Mm-hmm.
All right, then it's the justice system. So if you're serving at-risk fathers, many of those fathers have a history of incarceration and or substance abuse. So they're very familiar with the justice system. And you need we now have in Cass County, we have 4 people from the Cass County Sheriff's Department. This is a large county just south of Kansas City, where they're all trained to offer the fatherhood program right there in their facility.
Oh, wow.
It's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
All right. So, but they're also a source of referrals. They're the kind of people who can mention it. Hey, it might be a good idea if you checked out the Good Dads program. Social services, these are often recovery centers, transitional living homes, any place that might serve fathers, especially if you're looking for at-risk fathers. And then finally, the educational system, so the schools. This is a great place for dads who are getting their life together or who just want to be a better dad. Kids go to school. When we have contact with kids, we need to have contact with their dads. And many schools have found it challenging to be intentional about including fathers in their child's education, even though we know the research there is very strongly supports that kids who have a dad involved do better.
So do you want also members of each one of these 6 sectors in with good dads representing their community, or do you want to bring good dads into all these or both?
Well, make sure I understand your question, but we usually ask that they have at least 2 representatives from each of the 6 sectors at the lunch, and then they form a advisory group. So that advisory group then, by working together, start thinking about what would be best in their community. I mean, we have to, we give communities money to get started, but who in that community has the right to say how that money should be used? Well, if we bring together those 6 sectors, they're much more likely to make better decisions that are representative of their community.
Yeah, and how important is that
That's
to
so
have
important.
these 6 different representations? Because you don't want it to lean one way or the other. You want everybody's voice to be heard in your specific community, right?
Right. And I think if you think about it, I want you to think about your typical nonprofit board. They often have maybe 2 or 3 or 4 people of these 6 sectors represented on their board, but they certainly don't have all. It has been such an interesting experience to get these people together in a lunch or a breakfast that we might do. And they'll look at each other and they said, I heard of you, but I've never met you. So they begin to understand that we're not doing what people typically do. This is a whole new thing. No one is doing anything for fatherhood in their community. And so in order to do something different, we have to have a different approach.
Mm-hmm. So this is obviously differing when you talk about networking within a community.
Right.
When you talk about different business networking or different organizations that have different careers where they get together and they just want to network. Like I'm a real estate agent, so I'm looking for a plumber or I'm looking for a painter, and we want to get together and have this community, which almost kind of when you first described it, I was thinking of that until you brought me back down and you were like, no, this is for good dads. They're talking about having a father figure in a kid's life or family's life. So that's the one common goal that they're all, and not to say that they can't network also while they're there, but you're right. You bring it back to good dads and they have this one common purpose.
If you like meeting new people, if you want to do something different, if you think the same old maybe not be working as well as it could work, then this is definitely for you. And I mean, the other thing is we know that communities are safer with a high percentage of good dads, that schools are stronger. We know that the economy is more robust and relationships are healthier. So if you're going to accomplish all those things, you have to have a group of people working together and being intentional about that.
This Good Dads podcast is brought to you in part by our generous supporters. This week, we'd like to thank the following: Table Rock Shores, Train Supply, Hawkins & Sons Construction, LLC, Han DeBuff Government Relations, Monticello. Thank you to all of our sponsors. Visit our website at gooddads.com to learn how to contribute to the Good Dads mission. So, let me give you a scenario.
Okay.
So once again, the 6 sectors: business and manufacturing, faith community, city, county government, justice, social services, and education. What if I'm in a community where I can't get, let's say, anyone to represent the social services portion of that? Can I kind of modify or recruit someone else depending on the area that I'm in?
Well, we do have communities where people say,
and that's just an example.
It's
not. It could be something else. It could be the Justice Department. Maybe everyone's so busy, like they can't.
No, that's a really good question, and it actually comes up fairly often that people are able to get 4 of the 6, but they're really struggling with the last 2, and they're not always the same 2, kind of depending on the community. So, I mean, for instance, we just added a new chapter in Harrisonville, and the person who really got excited about that was head of the Chamber of Commerce. So he was very successful in getting a lot of people in the room that other people in other communities would not have been nearly as successful. So if this comes out of a faith community, let's say somebody in the faith community is really excited about good dads, they really want to have good dads in their community, and then they might say, and I'm like, and you need to have 2 representatives from the faith community, and they can't be from the same church or denomination.
Mm-hmm.
I've said, they can't both be First and Second Baptist. I'm like,
sure. Yeah.
I'm like, well, why can't they? I'm like, well, because
you want a well-rounded,
right?
A well-rounded pie,
right?
You want a slice of each pie,
right?
Yeah.
We need you all to work together,
sure.
And it's going to work better.
Well, right, and that I think that's why, is because you have a voice for each one of these organizations, and
right.
maybe they know dads that are closer in the business community or the manufacturing,
right.
The blue collar workers of the town can speak to
right.
dads a little bit better, or kind of bring them in, because if there's a bunch of government and justice people there,
right.
if I've been in front of the judge,
right,
I might not want to go to this luncheon.
He's not on your social calendar.
Oh, okay. He's not. Okay, he's
not
not
on
there
your social
to,
calendar.
He's not
well,
there
let's
to put me away.
all right, let's think about Facebook, shall we, for a minute?
Mm.
All right, so
please. I'm a big social media guy.
But if I looked
love
up,
it.
yeah. Well, if I looked on Facebook, it's a good example. Is it Meta
right.
now? Okay, whatever it is now.
It's great. No, you're good.
Facebook.
Yeah.
Okay. So if I looked on there, I could see what friends we had in common. And that's the thing about this. Although somebody in the faith community or somebody in the educational community may have a judge as an uncle or a brother or a relative of some sort. So they do have connections. It's working on those connections. So you need to have different sectors so that you can get different people and you can get a pretty broad expanse of outreach. And the problem is, if you only have 1 or 2 of those little pieces of the pie, then you're a lot of times we just tend to work in silos. And then that doesn't work nearly as well. It will never be embraced by a broad spectrum of the community.
So basically what you're saying is this is just you're reiterating what Good Dads stands for and what it means. Because if you have 1 or 2 of these sectors, people could say, oh, well, Good Dads, that's a church thing.
Right,
or Good
exactly.
Dads, that's an education thing. They just do that through schools, and it's something where dads go to the school and have lunch or breakfast with
Therefore,
their kids.
if you don't have kids in the school, it doesn't apply to me.
It doesn't apply to me.
Yeah.
So this is just a reiteration of that Good Dads is everyone.
Right.
Any kind of career, any kind of family, any father-like figure in your town.
Right. And so if you're an employer, you might say, well, maybe my kids are grown and whatever, but, I realize I have more than half my employees are men, and most of those men are fathers. Wow, how can I help them be better? Because I know if they believe I invest in their families, then they work longer, there's less turnover, they're better workers. So what can I do about that?
Yeah. You know what this sounds like? This sounds like my Little League baseball team. When you look at
more.
Oh yeah, no, I'm going to. All of the coaches were from different backgrounds.
Wow.
One of the coaches was his name was Coach Marv. He was a carpenter. My dad was a salesman. Then you had one guy that worked facilities for the school system.
Wow.
I don't think that we had any city or government coaches. But almost all of, there was a guy from church too. Mm-hmm. So there was like 3 of these sectors, and they ran our baseball team. So they were dressed a little differently. Like Coach Marv had short shorts and like a muscle shirt. He's just a big like lumberjack guy. And my dad had like a members only jacket, and he would smoke cigars. And then the guy that was, he would work for the school district. He would come in his uniform that said Bob on it, and he would smoke cigarettes on the field. and hit us ground balls. So it was a little bit of everyone. And I think that really made our team very well-rounded.
Yeah.
So it just made me think about how well-rounded that team was.
Well,
just like your community.
I think you could actually use the sports analogy and think about the Kansas City Chiefs, for instance.
Okay.
And think about how they have all different kinds of coaches and people in order to make them successful.
Yes.
And you all have to work together. So you could not possibly be successful if you just focused on offense or you just focused on defense. And today we know that you also, because I know they have a psychologist that works with them, you have to be thinking about mental health. You have to be thinking about athletic trainers. You have to be thinking about so many things for a successful team. This is really what this is about. And we know what makes a successful team. And if you really want to transform your community by increasing the number of good dads, this is how you have to do it.
Yeah, and all those guys are coming from different backgrounds.
Right, yes.
But they have one common goal, and that is to win together as a team. And then I think that this is kind of the 6 sectors. You have different backgrounds or different careers, and they all come together for the common good, and that is to have great father figures, good dads in their community.
So one of our board members was just in, Mike Dawson, and he is Dr. Mike Dawson. He's down in Branson, and he said they just had their first strong schools at Buchanan Elementary, and it was standing room only. Now, I tell you, when most dads don't go to school, and you go to school now and you see dads and kids standing room only, what does that tell you?
It's awesome.
Yeah. I mean, it's totally awesome because it really says, wow, evidently some people think it's important for me to be here. In fact, a lot of people think it's important for me to be here. It must be the thing to do.
Yeah.
That's what we want.
That's awesome. All right. Is there anything else that we missed on the 6 essential sectors to get started with good dads in your community?
I would just say that Good Dads is rather relentless in pursuing this model, but the good news is we've seen this work in small communities like 2,000 or less and medium-sized communities, 15, 20,000, all the way to large communities. So in every community, the dynamic looks a little bit different, but we have lots of examples that can tell us, how this works. And we have people in various size communities who are happy to consult and collaborate, at no cost. This is not about us getting money. It's about helping people be successful.
Absolutely. Dr. Baker, thank you.
You're welcome.
Once again, good dads, great communities.